Kevin, last night, WWE crowned their new WWE World Heavyweight Champion as Seth Rollins raised the title above his head next to Triple H. And
Right.
today, we thought for this week's Elite Heat, we do something topical, something relevant, something interesting. We discuss WWE's history with the big gold belt. So
Okay.
before we get started, Kevin, how you doing, pal?
Oh, I'm lovely, pal. Lovely. I got my Eddie Guerrero shirt on. Look at that. I'm your Poppy Dominic. So, yeah. What's your Rocket Wrestling merch too, pal? Let's see it.
Yes, I am, pal. I'll reveal that in due time for
Oh.
our YouTube listeners. You'll see
Lovely.
that. So that's wait to see what I'm rocking underneath this puffer jacket. But Kevin, with that being said, do you want to jump right into this? Because there's a lot to discuss with this title. There's a lot we can yell about, what we can scream about. I'll throw it to you. Where do you want to start? Where do you want to kick this off, pal?
Pal, let's talk about the very beginning of the big gold belt, the WCW Championship, the World Heavyweight Championship, its lineage in the WWE. So the first time we saw this belt make an appearance, and yeah, we're talking about the belt that Ric Flair held and Dusty Rhodes and Sting, you know, the one that Hogan was spraying the NWO on, that belt, when it came to WWE. It was a WCW belt in 01, and, you know, I think The Rock had it, Jericho, Booker T, some guys like that. But then in 02, on an episode of Raw, what was this? On September 2nd, 2002. So the Undisputed Championship became the WCW belt and the WWF belt. That was the one that Brock Lesnar held, and the title that Eddie Guerrero famously held, and JBL, guys like that. WWE was like, we need to make another championship. Can't have Brock Lesnar only on SmackDown. We can't have that. So what WWE decided to do, what Vince McMahon did, was legitimately hand the belt over to his son-in-law on an episode of Raw. And Eric Bischoff comes out and is like, all right, I'm going to give you this belt, Triple H, because you are Vince McMahon's son-in-law, and you deserve it. And that's where we get started with the big gold belt in WWE. And I believe it was referred to as the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, right? Or was it just referred to as the World Heavyweight Championship?
It was just the World Heavyweight Championship. That's just what it was. There wasn't the WWE in front of it, thankfully. But
right.
Yeah, carry on.
Yeah. So yeah, that's that infamous segment is where we started with this lineage. Any honest thoughts on how they brought this belt in?
Yeah, my stance for this has always been the same. I thought the way they did it was dumb. I did. I thought what they should have done is introduce at Survivor Series that Elimination Chamber match that's probably the greatest ever. It should have been decided. The first champion should have been crowned through that match. You should have had Michaels win the match, do the match as was, only instead of Triple H walking into Madison Square Garden with that title, have Eric Bischoff come out before the match and be like, this championship will be won tonight. And he can be slapping the steel like he did and being like, inside this chamber, and making this big thing. And Jim Ross being like, by God! He's like screaming. Do it that way. Instead, Kevin,
Beautiful.
Paul Levesque was literally just coming out with a big thing on his forehead because he'd been like cut at SummerSlam from the unsanctioned match. And Bischoff was just like, here you go. And Triple H is like, So, yeah, it could have been brought in a bit better, I guess, manner. I thought they should have done through the chamber match. Kevin, do you think why I said there's fair? Talk to me, pal.
I think it is fair. The only thing that I am concerned about is the time frame. So the belt was introduced September 2nd, 02. The Elimination Chamber match was November 17th. That's a little over 2 months, almost 3 months of time in between. They could have done like a tournament, or they could have just waited. Yeah, they could have just announced like a month out before Survivor Series, just be like, this Elimination Chamber match is for the World Heavyweight Championship. And I do think Shawn Michaels winning it in that grandiose moment that he had at Survivor Series, I think that would have been a really memorable way to introduce the belt. It would have been something that we look back on now and we're like, wow, that was cool. What a way to introduce the title, man. That's the bar. Like, it's hard to beat that. Shawn Michaels goes through this grueling Elimination Chamber match, the first ever Elimination Chamber match. It's star-studded. You know, you had Jericho in there. I don't know if Goldberg was in there. No, he wasn't. You had Kane, RVD, Triple H, Shawn, Booker T, all these stars, a who's who of that era of wrestling. And if that would have been the crowning moment, it would have been so cool.
Yeah, like how you could have done it, because you mentioned the time frame. You could have had in September, Eric Bischoff goes, classic Bischoff, I've got something that's going to change wrestling, change the landscape for good, like I did in WCW. I got a piece of WCW I'm going to bring to this. I'm going to make Raw, the A show, have Bischoff make it about himself, and then announcing sometime in September, Survivor Series, something big is going to happen. They're going to do everything in Survivor Series. there's going to be an elimination chamber match, and they can do like qualifying matches, like one person qualifies each week or something. And then Shawn Michaels could have been like the last one to qualify. He lost his qualifying match to Triple H in like a Raw main event, for instance, in October. And then Shawn finally struggles to qualify. He comes in number one. He wins the chamber. It's a legendary moment, which is what we saw. And they could have done it that way. But nonetheless, Kevin, WWE, what actually happened, as we know, here you go, Paul Levesque. Here you go. Here's your championship. There you go, pal. There you go.
I love it. All right, so let me ask you this. In your opinion, what do you think is the greatest reign under the lineage of this belt?
Greatest reign. Okay. So this is from 2002 through until 2013.
Yes.
This is the time frame. Yeah. Greatest reign. To be honest, for me, my favorite would be when Batista held it on SmackDown. I think that was, what was that? 05, 6.
That was from WrestleMania 21 until he relinquished the title in, I believe it was January when he relinquished the title of 06. Yeah. It was, January 10th, 06. So from April 3rd, 05 to January 10th, 06. Almost 300 days.
Yeah, because to me, Kevin, the best representation of that title, that big gold belt in the WWE in this new millennium, was Batista coming out, this jack dude in suits, big gold belt, he's got the sunglasses, he's having that pay-per-view match series of Triple H, which was like epic, that trilogy they had, and then he did the stuff throughout the rest of the year. He was really the face of SmackDown. He was, WWE's other co-star alongside Cena, who was on Raw, and I thought that was just the best representation of the title personally. I'll throw it back to you. What was your favorite one? Do you agree it was Batista, or you got someone else?
No, my favorite was definitely Batista's, for sure. That was like peak of my fandom as a kid. I remember watching SmackDown every week, just being enthralled with Batista and the stuff he did with Eddie Guerrero later on in that reign, and everything he did really after Raw, the trilogy with Triple H. I can't remember what his first feud was when he had. I think it was Edge, if I remember correctly. I don't know. No, I don't remember when he first got to SmackDown. Maybe it was Eddie when he first got to SmackDown. I should be more prepared, but
come on, pal. Come on, pal. This is the credibility of our podcast, pal.
I know, right? No, but yeah, Batista, it was awesome. Just watching him every week. Like you said, counterpart to Cena. But another reign, too, that really interested me was Rey Mysterio's. Like, it wasn't the greatest reign, but when you look back at it, he had a 112-day reign. Like, Undertaker won the belt, 4 times, barely held the title. That was always interesting for me. I did like King Booker's, too. King Booker's was one that stands out from my childhood. He was at his absolute peak as a character at that time. And, he held the belt for a long time. What's up, pal?
Kevin, are you ignoring the legendary reign of Jack Swagger in 2010?
Jeez.
We'll get to that. Anyway, we'll get to that, Kevin. Sorry, carry on.
No, go ahead. Hit me with it.
I was going to say, because we're talking about the great runs, and we'll get to the worst runs shortly. This belt has had some stinkers, which we will get to. For now, though, we're a positive podcast. We'll stay on the good, pal. I thought, Batista, you agree. Rey Mysterio deserves a mention. And I love that point about Undertaker. He never really held belts, to be honest, world titles for that long. Undertaker never needed a Roman 1000 to get over, pal. So, carry on, pal.
No, go ahead.
That's all I had to say. I was just...
Oh, okay. So, I think we're both in agreement that Batista's reign is the best. But I want to talk about this, though, for a second. The overall importance of this championship. It's kind of like the underlying thing that you see when you're looking at these reigns. A lot of them are short. A lot of them are hot-shotted. You had, CM Punk having, a 30-day reign. Benoit had a short reign. Guys like that. It felt like this title was never really, it was on Raw for a while. What, for 2 years, 4 years almost, till Batista brought it to SmackDown. And then once it went to SmackDown, it just kind of felt like a secondary title, and it was always treated as such. And that carried into the 2010s when they eventually abolished it. But it got to a point, when Jack Swagger became champion, and then you go from Jack Swagger, Del Rio's in there, Sheamus is in there, Ziggler's in there as champion, and it's just goes off a rail. So what do you make of the credibility of this championship?
I think credibility, as much as people hate on the reign of terror, when you have one guy who was a part of, obviously Triple H, big-time main eventer, one of the all-time greats, a part of Evolution, on Raw in the early 2000s, when this was the thing to win on Raw, the credibility was pretty good. like if you won that title, it was a big deal. I mean, infamously, the man who cannot be named, who won at WrestleMania 20, that was a big moment. When Randy Orton won from him at SummerSlam, that was supposed to be a big moment for him, but obviously it was a bit too early for him. And then so on and so forth. When Batista won at WrestleMania, that main evented WrestleMania 21. They didn't main event with Cena and JBL for the WWE title. They main evented with Batista and Triple H. So that shows you in that part of 05, as we alluded to with Batista, it was the belt. It was the prize. Not saying the WWE title was a bum title, but it wasn't on the level at the time. Ever since then, you get to like 07 and on. I mean, WrestleMania 24 did main event with the world title as well. Edge and Undertaker, which was really good. And that Edge and Undertaker series kept the prestige and the credibility of that title going in 2008, particularly. But really, Kevin, yeah, you get to 2009 and on, and it just sort of dwindles and dwindles. Then you get to the point where I'm watching Kevin, and yes, Christian versus Randy Orton was a good sort of back and forth feud in 2011 with the one more match and the pay-per-view matches they had month after month. But I remember that time period for Big Show and Mark Henry, Big Show crying because his foot got like hit with a chair, and Del Rio feuding with Sheamus, and Sheamus driving around in Del Rio's $250,000 car, spilling a burrito in the back seat, pal. Like that's the sort of stuff I remember the title for. And once you got to 2013 and they eventually unified it with the WWE title, it was like a good riddance almost, because the belt had been run down so much from where it was in 2005 in the mid 2000s to where it got to. So yeah, it's an interesting title. When it was around 11 years in WWE, and it started pretty high, and then just slowly there was a blip in 08 with the WrestleMania 24 main event, then just down it went, and yeah, just pathetic, pal.
I love that word. Yeah, I want to circle back to Batista's reign for a moment.
Yeah.
So really, the defining feud of that reign was with Triple H, over on Raw. You know, that's really what carried it. You know, on SmackDown, he came in and he faced JBL. That was like his first feud, and then he had the feud with Eddie. Then Eddie tragically passed away. As we know, that was Eddie's final pay-per-view match, was a World Heavyweight title match with Batista, and that was the beginning of what would have been a great storyline. Then, you know, it was some tag team stuff. Batista and Ray, they're going after Eminem, tag team titles, and then he relinquishes the belt. And really, to say this, like, I make this point, circling back, that really, like, that's the most significant reign that this belt really ever had. Like, maybe you could argue the Kane reign in, like, 09, 010. You know, I've seen people say that reign is amazing. But other than that, you know, Edge held it for a few days here. You know, CM Punk held it for a few days there. Like, it wasn't really anything. So I'm going to go through this real quick. Yeah. Looking at some of the longest title reigns. Let's see. So you had Rey Mysterio held it for 112 days. King Booker held it for 126. And then what? Edge's longest reign was 105 days. Then Edge held it for 29 days here. Jericho held it for 49 days. I guess that's a good reign. The Jericho reign is a good one. That's one that is worth talking about. That might have been the peak of that championship when you think about it in WWE, because after that it was downhill from there. After Jericho and Michaels were feuding over that belt, and Jericho viciously assaulted Shawn Michaels' wife in the name of that title. I mean, that's the best storyline, in my opinion, the best storyline associated with that championship. Yeah, Triple H, you know, Batista storyline is right up there, top tier. But I think that Jericho Michaels, for me at least, that hit differently as a young adult watching that.
Yeah, no, that version of heel Jericho was great. And you think of just the segments. Jericho's in the suit. He's got the big gold world title. He's just like an absolute like douchebag at this stage. Mm-hmm. Shawn's the babyface, and the stuff they did in late 08. Yeah, it's probably the best. I'd say it's the best storyline, if not one of the top couple that this belt has been involved in. Because yeah, I mean, Batista and Triple H, as you touch on, was really good. But you know, I think after Mania 21, that storyline, I think that peaked at WrestleMania, but that's just me. So.
You think so?
Well, that's the thing. They had more matches and stuff. They had the match at Backlash, the match at Vengeance. But the real moment of that, the whole thing of that storyline was Batista dethroning Triple H, Batista getting the title. That was like the big thing as the payoff for months and months of the storyline with this and all that sort of stuff. And then once you got to WrestleMania and beyond, it was like, okay, well, Batista's won. Now Triple H is just trying to do everything he can to use his star power to elevate Batista more and more with more wins, which, you know, good on Triple H, unselfish of him, but I feel like that peaked at WrestleMania.
Yeah, it was kind of the way too with back to Jericho for a sec. The way
Yeah.
that he won the belt was weird. It was like a championship scramble. I don't know if you guys remember that, but it was like what that was when that was when Orton punt kicked CM Punk, and it was just like, all right, yeah, CM Punk, you're not going to be the championship scramble. They vacate the belt, they give it to Jericho. Here, Jericho, have the title. He holds it for a few days, and then Batista wins it like a month later, and then he holds it for a week, and then they give it back to Jericho, and then they just like, here, Cena, here, take it. It was so weird. But in between there, we got this great storyline with Jericho and Shawn Michaels. So it's like it still gives the validation to Batista as the best
Yeah.
reign just because he was the top guy. You know, he truly was having the brand built around him, and he was involved in an iconic feud. It's just it was unfortunate that he had to give it up the way he did and vacate it.
Well, the longer we talk about this title, the more those words are coming up. Hot shotting, short reigns, yeah, nothing insanely memorable or great from it. And that's interesting to me because now, Kevin, as we allude to at the start with this, and the reason we do this now, Seth Rollins has just won the new version of this belt. And based on the track record we've discussed with WWE in this, like, I guess, secondary prize, this consolidation sort of not WWE title, is I don't know if nowadays is going to be any better. Honestly, it's just going to be more 3 month, 4 month title reign. Another guy wins it for a month, and as we're discussing here, Kevin, you go through the list of these champions. It's like 49-day run, 8-day run, 28 days, 91, 22, 105, 22. That's what this is literally for pretty much the reign's entire history from '06 and beyond. So it's pretty crazy when you think about it. SmackDown was just hot potatoing this title around in the late 2000s, early 2010s, and that was just sort of what went down. The WWE title was the title still at this stage, and then this was just who wants it? Who wants it? You got Vince McMahon throwing the belt at people backstage. Like,
Do you remember in 2011 when Edge and Ziggler were feuding over the belt, and Vicky Guerrero just handed Ziggler the title? It was like, here you go, baby, here, there's your title, and then Edge just beat Ziggler for it the same night, like an hour later. Oh, it's associated with some of the dumbest stuff that we've seen.
I know.
And people complain. I want to say this: people complain about Triple H and having long title reigns, complaining about the 1,000-day reign of Roman, the near 500-day reign of Bianca, the now 350+ day reign of Gunther as Intercontinental Champion. I mean that does a good job in establishing the championships. Like we're talking about it now. The more we're saying this out loud, this World Heavyweight Championship was never really established.
Yeah,
it was like Triple H is given the belt. 3 weeks later, he loses it to Shawn Michaels. And then it's just so on and so forth from there. Triple H holds it for a little bit, then he loses it, then he gets it back, and then it was just repeat the process until Batista took it over to SmackDown. And then once it got to SmackDown, it was like, all right, this is the Intercontinental Championship, which is basically what it was at that point. It was the equivalent of what the IC title was in the 80s and 90s, when you had like the Workhorse winning it or the up-and-coming stars winning it. That was kind of the theme after Jericho and Shawn feuded for the belt. Then it was just like, all right, we're gonna put it on Swagger. He's a guy that we like. Put it on Ziggler. Hey, put it on Del Rio. We want to push him. Yeah.
Well,
Good.
Kevin, further to that, I want to just like go through this. I'll do this, then you'll get thoughts in a moment. This is from Kane's run, which you touch on. Some people look at as like the best of the last like 5 years this title was around. From that run through until the end of the title, it's literally exactly what we say. So Kane holds it, drops it to Edge in that fatal 4-way match at TLC. Edge holds it for 61 days. They do that whole thing on SmackDown that you mentioned where Vicky just like, takes the title, gives it to Ziggler, then Edge just wins it back within a night.
Stupid.
So like that happened. Then it gets vacated, or like the Edge relinquished it because of the retirement. So his run was like 50 days. And then Christian won it for like 2 days, and Orton won it for 2 months, and then Christian won it for a month, and then Orton won it for a month, and then Mark Henry won it for 3 months. And then Big Show won it for 5 minutes, and Daniel Bryan held it when he was clearly like, still a mid-card at that stage, and he was competing with Big Show and Mark Henry, and he was fluking wins and all that sort of stuff. And Sheamus beats him in 18 seconds at WrestleMania. Sheamus holds it for 210 days, pal. That literally the whole run was a Del Rio storyline, which is incredible to me. From the moment he won it through until literally October, he was feuding with Alberto Del Rio. It was one of the longest, most forgettable storylines in the modern era, Kevin. I
The
remember watching
burritos,
this,
pal.
pal, month after month after month after month. On Raw, it would be CM Punk. He'd be feuding with Daniel Bryan, Kane, AJ Lee. There'd be stuff with Cena and Laurinaitis, Cena and Punk. The Rock and Punk and Raw 1000. That was like on Raw. That was what you cared about. Brock Lesnar and Triple H. That's what was happening there. Then on SmackDown, it's just Sheamus and Del Rio for 6 months. Literally, no matter what was happening, whether the sun was up, whether the sun was down, whether the kangaroos are bouncing in the outback, whether you were, chowing down an enchilada at the food court, pal. No matter what was going down, pal, Sheamus and Del Rio were feuding over this title. I remember Sheamus going to court, pal, and you had like Ricardo Rodriguez trying to convict Sheamus before Night of Champions to ban the bro kick, and you had Sheamus testifying in like a courtroom as to why the bro kick shouldn't be banned. Then he just beat Del Rio at this pay-per-view anyway. Like, it was just rubbish. And then a month before that, before SummerSlam, they're driving around and Sheamus is rolling around San Antonio in the $250,000 Del Rio car. Oh, I spilled a burrito, fella, in the backseat. Like, this is this championship, pal. This was my memory a year into my fandom of watching this big gold belt. It was Sheamus spilling a burrito on the back seat in San Antonio. It was him rocking back up to the arena an hour later with smoke coming out of the hood with the car destroyed. Del Rio would arrive 10 minutes later, shouting. He'd be grabbing Ricardo Rodriguez. Oh my God, he destroyed my car. See. I need to lock in the cross arm breaker, pal. It was crap. It was garbage, Kevin. And then we get to the end of Sheamus's run. Big Show wins it in one of the worst storylines, Kevin. Do you remember the Sheamus and Big Show storyline?
Yes.
We just had 6 months of Sheamus and Del Rio. Then we get Sheamus and Big Show, which is even worse. Big Show just beats him. And then they do like 3 other matches. Big Show pulls out like the biggest chair you've ever seen, clobbers Sheamus in the back at TLC and just like wins a match. And you had a DQ match at Survivor Series, Kevin. This is the most forgettable stuff. Then you move to 2013. Del Rio just wins it because he tapes Big Show's legs together to the ropes and wins the last man standing match on a SmackDown. That happened, Kevin. And then the moment everyone remembers, Raw after Mania, Kevin, Dolph Ziggler runs out. Keep in mind, the night before, the big world heavyweight title match, Kevin, the championship that Triple H held, that Batista held, Edge and The Undertaker feuded over, Jericho held, Kane held in 2010. This legendary championship, not really, this hotshot title. The WrestleMania 29 match is Del Rio feuding with Jack Swagger because Zeb Coulter doesn't like that Del Rio got an American passport. That was this match. Zeb Coulter had immigration issues with Alberto Del Rio, and Ricardo Rodriguez was slapping his bucket saying, "See, pal." That's this championship. Then you get to the night after. Everyone's mad, Kevin. Cena won at WrestleMania. Boo, we hate WWE. Vince McMahon's evil. We hate wrestling. Then you hear, "I'm here to show the world. I'm here to show the world." Ziggler runs down. The Euro smarks erupt. Ziggler, he nearly loses because that's what he does. Even though Del Rio barely could walk at that stage, he was crippled. Ziggler wins the title, Kevin. This epic moment, this legendary title moment. You think, Kevin, Ziggler's going to hold the belt for months, a legendary reign. No, Del Rio just wins it back at Payback because of a concussion storyline with Dolph Ziggler. Del Rio just won it, and Ziggler was like concussed, and he was like on the ground, and they're doing stuff with Swagger still. So Kevin, Del Rio holds the belt for another like 5 months. He feuds with Christian, and then Cena just wins it. Cena, keep in mind, Kevin, at SummerSlam 2 months prior, he's like a bursa infection on his elbow. He's a lump the size of a baseball, Kevin. It's a baseball-sized lump on John Felix Anthony Cena's elbow. He has to get immediate surgery. This was all over Total Divas in 2013. Cena's surgery. This is the big thing, Kevin. Cena gets a bursa surgery. You think he's going to be out for months. He comes back a month and a bit later and squashes Del Rio at Hell in a Cell. He squashes Alberto Del Rio, Kevin. And then he holds the belt for like a month, beats Del Rio at Survivor Series, and then the biggest match ever, Kevin. Kevin, forget Hogan Andre. Forget Austin Rock. Forget MJF and Daniel Bryan at Revolution. This match, Kevin. Tables, Ladders, and Chairs 2013. The match to end all matches. The biggest match of all time. Cena, Orton, part 500. for both championships. Randy Orton's been pinned clean 3 times by Daniel Bryan in the past 4 months. Everyone knows Daniel Bryan's better than both of them. Cena Orton, pal. And then he's handcuffed to the rope. Orton throws him to the side of the table. The table doesn't break. Cena is a TLC. Cena's like this, dying on the side of the ring. Orton climbs the ladder, grabs big gold. And that was the end of this championship as a solo belt. Kevin, with that being said, talk to me. That's the last 3 years of this championship.
Wow.
Bluntly described. Walk us through how that made you feel. Talk to me about your brutally honest thoughts, pal.
Thank you for that description and that just blatant, bluntly summary of the past, like from 2011 to 2013 of that World Heavyweight Championship in WWE. Thank you for that. That was hilarious. You went for 5 minutes on that, I must say. I don't even know how to follow that. I don't even know what to say right now. So I'll start with this. The PTSD that you brought to me right now is triggering, to say the least. I legitimately had PTSD of just like that Sheamus and Big Show feud over the World Heavyweight Championship. I had PTSD of that WrestleMania feud with Zeb Coulter and Jack Swagger and Del Rio. Like, this was hyped up that this is, like, WWE hyped this up like it's Batista and Triple H from 05. Like, it's the cornerstone of once in a lifetime or twice in a lifetime, pal. This is one of the pillars of that show. Arguably one of the worst WrestleManias of all time. Yeah. The Raw after Mania was so bad, people were fed up. This was like an all-time, like, fuck you to WWE from the audience. And then we get, oh, I'm here to show the world. Oh, yeah. And Ziggler wins the belt. He's like, give me my praise. Yeah. And we're just like, bro, the PTSD is ridiculous. I'm triggered right now. I'm so triggered to an era of WWE that I wish I could forget. Yeah. But I cannot forget. This is worse than like a breakup right now. This triggering right now. I vividly remember these people hijacking shows, solely going to Raw and SmackDown, literally just to say, we want Ziggler. And this would be like in the middle of Alberto Del Rio cutting a promo. Ricardo Rodriguez is out there. You know, God knows who. My mother, you know, everybody. You got Santino Marella in the third row waiting for an Intercontinental title open challenge. Like, who the hell knows what's going on? And you got people who, we want Ziggler. Like, oh, the memories. Oh my God. Yeah, and I want to say this too, real quick, about John Cena's baseball-sized elbow.
The burster infection, yeah.
He didn't go on a podcast and complain about that for an hour and a half. That goes to show what a class act John Felix Anthony Cena Jr. is. All right? I'll say that now, please. Go ahead.
We need to clip that rant I did. That's one of the great Elite Heat rants, I feel like. That was incredible.
Yeah.
Look, that was my childhood growing up with this title. It was, for me, when I was watching this, it was always the afterthought. Whether it was Sheamus and Big Show, whether it was Sheamus, Del Rio, whether it was Ziggler and the Del Rio feud where Ziggler had the concussion at Payback. I'll never forget that match. Ziggler's just like flopping like a fish and he's like concussed and he's just like throwing his head back and forth and hitting the ground. And the whole Chicago is just booing Del Rio for 15 minutes. Just this title, and the whole point we're making here with this is that it took such a downturn that you got to the 2010s. And by the time this championship was unified with the WWE title at the end of 2013, it was like good. Thankfully, it's gone. But that being said, Kevin, one thing I do want to mention now. Yes, I've just bluntly described the fall of this championship, the decline of the World Heavyweight Championship. I've just brutally laid it out. It shouldn't have been unified. It shouldn't have, especially the time period that was done. You had Batista coming back, and this is the end of 2013, beginning of 2014. This is WrestleMania 30 time. Batista was back. Brock was there. There were plenty of stars, and WWE sort of pigeonholed themselves and made it so there was one world title. This was the perfect time, Kevin. If you're going to have 2 world titles, so big gold, which is what we discussed, and the WWE title in 2014, that was the time to have 2 titles. You could have had Batista beat Brock or Brock beat Batista for one of these titles. Maybe Roman Reigns in 2014 beats Batista or Brock. That makes him more of a star naturally. and then the WWE titles, Daniel Bryan versus the Authority, and then maybe Cena wins it back, or maybe Brock comes and beats Bryan. Who knows? That's what you could have done. But Kevin, WWE just said no. We're going to have one world title. Randy Orton's going to carry around big gold as like a meaningless prop as he comes down the WrestleMania 30 aisleway with "I hear voices cry." As like they're performing it. Orton will walk down looking like he doesn't want to be there with both titles, big gold, the WWE title, deep in the heart of the Silver Dome in New Orleans. Pal, it was a letdown what this title turned into. It just turned into a literal prop. It was just an extra title for the WWE champion to hold around. And eventually they did away with it I forget when, like a year later, I think, or within the next year. So
can we talk about, for one, how awful that storyline buildup was for the unification match between Cena and Orton? The TLC at TLC 2013. Literally, that was when you had like Mark Henry's in the ring, Triple H is in the ring, all these great like world heavyweight champions. Triple H is going through the lineage. Like, this is the two biggest stars unifying the two biggest belts. This is Hogan, Andre of this generation, and literally people are screaming for Daniel Bryan while Paul Levesque is talking. Like, so bad. And like the force feeding of this Cena Orton thing, which had been long overdue, long overdone, was over by that point. I had watched, at least growing up as a young boy, Cena and Orton fight each other a million times, and I was over it as like a 10-year-old kid. I was like, make it stop, please, enough. I've seen enough of this. I don't want to see this again. Yeah. And then I'm in high school again, getting PTSD, watching this storyline play out, where WWE's clearly ignoring that Daniel Bryan is the top guy in the company. Like whether we agree with it or not, Daniel Bryan was the top guy at that point. Put the belt on him. Give him the World Heavyweight Championship. Let him be happy. Why do we need this unification storyline where we're being told that legitimately these are the greatest champions in the history of wrestling? You got JBL out there screaming at the top of his lungs, like having an all-time like breakdown, just like mentally going nuts, screaming about Randy Orton and like listing all his accomplishments, listing all of John Cena's accomplishments. It was like, it was just tone deaf is a word you could use. Delusional is another word. It was like, what are we doing here? That storyline, man. But I'll say this. I said all that. I want to circle back. So let's highlight the positives of this championship for a moment. So the great things that I think this championship's legacy is, the great feuds and reigns that were involved with it. Christian and Orton, 2011. That's an all-time great rivalry. You say Punk and Jeff Hardy? Would you put that?
Yeah.
That was a great storyline. It was a great time to be a wrestling fan, and the stuff that Undertaker and Punk did was good. But we were talking about legacy-defining stuff. Shawn and Jericho from 2008. Batista, Triple H, and maybe Benoit winning the title. Maybe that whole storyline. The triple threat at WrestleMania 20. Those are the legacy definers.
Edge Undertaker 24 as well, I'd throw in there. But WrestleMania 20 as well, 100%.
Edge Undertaker, yeah, exactly. That was a great storyline, a great consistent storyline. They didn't always have the belt, but Edge Undertaker, yeah, that was good stuff. And they main evented WrestleMania 24, one of the greatest WrestleMania main events of all time. So that title, it's involved in big storylines from 2004 to 2008, in terms of like WrestleMania season. 2005 headlines. 2006, that was Rey Mysterio. 2007, Taker Batista. 2008, Undertaker Edge. And it just off a cliff after that.
Kevin, do you think it's fair to say the worst storyline on like a big stage storyline this title was involved in was WrestleMania 19, Triple H Booker T?
Yes.
And the fact that happened, 4 months after this title became a thing?
Yeah.
And we discussed it earlier at the start. They did the Elimination Chamber thing after Triple H had been given the title. Within a month or 6 weeks, we're seeing Triple H feud with Scott Steiner. And then within 3 months, we're seeing Triple H with Ric Flair walking around the slums, the ghettos, making racist comments about Booker T and black people. And that was a WrestleMania storyline for this title within 6 months of its conception. Like, Kevin, you're the more expert on this. deep dive into WrestleMania 19. You've discussed it, but talk to us now what that did for the title and how much of a negative connotation that gave the belt right out of the jump.
It was, it was what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to say secondary because Triple H was pretty much the biggest star in the company at the time. So him walking around with the big gold belt, great representation of the belt. But it was like, this is necessary. Necessary. This is like a mid card guy or undercard guy in Booker T at the time. He was literally doing like Star Wars segments with Golda. He wasn't doing anything of note since he had debuted and had the feuds with Austin Rock. And Triple H just like throwing his weight around. It's like, yeah, better than this guy. And it just, yeah, it introduced the Reign of Terror, which is something that this WCW Big Gold Belt in WWE is pretty much synonymous for. Is the Reign of Terror. And then it was like from there, it was just Triple H working with his buddies, working with Shawn, working with Nash. And then Goldberg gets an opportunity, and Vince's like, nah, we're going to bury you, pal. You were in WCW. You got checks from Ted Turner, so you cannot win this belt right away. So it's basically, literally, like, I remember vividly watching segments. I don't know how I remember this stuff. But Triple H just, like, jumping Goldberg, leaving him laying in the ring. Goldberg's like this animal. You got people holding him back, trying to get at Triple H. And it's just like, it could have been good, in theory. A Triple H versus Goldberg feud could have been really good for this championship. But it didn't really do anything for it. And then to fast forward a little bit, then you get to 04, this big crowning moment with Chris Benoit winning the championship. The show goes off the air, hugging Eddie Guerrero, one of the most feel-good moments in the history of wrestling. Now it's not looked at the same way, obviously. Benoit holds the title 4 months, and it's kind of clear that he's not really a top guy. He's defending it in triple threat matches. He's kind of in the mix. Like, Triple H is still the most important guy in the show. And then they give the championship to Randy Orton. And from what I've read and what people have said in interviews, that Randy Orton only got the championship at SummerSlam 04, so they could, despite Brock, basically, so he could get the record for the youngest world champion. I don't remember who it was that said that, but it was somebody, some writer or something, some backstage personality, and I've seen it on Reddit forums. And, like, that's the kind of stuff that you'd see with this. Like, Randy Orton as a babyface in 04, having the championship. I recently found a clip, and I resurfaced it on my Twitter account, my fan page account, of Randy Orton doing like a terrible Triple H impression as a babyface. And that's like, that's got to be one of the worst reigns associated with this championship. That Randy Orton, that month of Randy Orton, he's jumping out of birthday cakes. Triple H has strippers in the ring. Randy Orton's like, hey guys, hey, I'm here. I'm a babyface world champion. I'm the youngest champion now. Just like, please go ahead. I'm rambling.
No, I like what you're saying there, and the points you make are all valid. I just want to circle back because you were talking about 2013, like the end of this championship. I want to just mention one more thing with that. You bang on about how it was obvious Daniel Bryan was the top guy. Earlier, I bluntly described what was going on, but just in case you weren't watching at that time, or you tuned out, or you were taking a break, or whatever, quite literally, Cena just came back from this like infection thing in his elbow, won the title from Del Rio just randomly at Hell in a Cell in October. Meanwhile, Orton just has the WWE title when it's clear Bryan's beat him literally 3 straight pay-per-views at SummerSlam. Well, he beat Cena, but he was clearly the champion. He beat him at Night of Champions clean. The match at Hell in a Cell, which that's used cheating. Battleground was a non-finish. Bryan was clearly better. So Randy Orton and Cena are the champions of respective titles. They move into Survivor Series, Kevin. The show Survivor Series 2013 was so bad, the Smarkbusters started making videos because of it. That's how bad that show was. You had Cena and Del Rio had like a 20-minute match. The Cena just won. Randy Orton was feuding with the Big Show in a storyline where Big Show was crying to Stephanie McMahon because Stephanie McMahon needs to pay for Big Show's house because Big Show had gone broke. That was literally the storyline. So Randy Orton just beats Big Show. And then Daniel Bryan, the top guy at the time, Kevin, was in a random throwaway nothing feud with Punk and the Wyatt family. Why, I don't know. That was just happening. So you get to the end of the show, Kevin, this big Survivor Series, Big 4 pay-per-view, this epic event. The show just ends. Randy Orton, he lays out the 46-year-old Big Show. He's raising the WWE title. The Authority are there. And then Cena's just there, pal. You can't see me. We're going to have a match, pal. It's like, seriously, it's
Can't see
like
me,
what a
pal.
joke. What a joke of a way to end this title. But yeah, now further, just circling back one more time, back to what we were discussing there, the Ruthless Aggression era and this title. There's so much stuff, which I love that your Twitter account surfaces some of these clips with like Randy Orton and some of the stuff that went down when he held the title for a month and general clips from that sort of time with the Booker T stuff and Triple H and his buddies. And thankfully, Triple H was a big star, so it wasn't just bouncing around mid carders right away in the early 2000s. But that being said, Kevin, my God, there's some of the stuff I'm listening to you talk about here with Randy Orton and him impersonating Triple H, him jumping out of the cake, pal. Oh, it's Paul Levesque. It's just like, what is this? Benoit's having a match with Randy Orton, pal. Oh. It's like, okay, sure, nice.
Great stuff, pal. Um, so all in all, to kind of recap this championship, I would say I'd give its time in WWE. I'd give it like I want to say like a B minus, C plus. I would say because it did have good times. Like we said, we laid out all the good times, but there was a lot of bad. There was a lot of bad involved in this. I mean, involved in the Reign of Terror. Literally, like Triple H held the belt for a combined almost 700 days. That's the infamous time frame that you all. Literally from '02 to '05, it was just Triple H walking around burying former ECW guys and WCW guys. And Randy Orton, buried Randy Orton. And we buried him so bad that Randy Orton's, the most decorated resume holder in the history of wrestling. So yeah, he really buried him, pal. He really buried Booker T. Booker T is still making money off wrestling. So I don't like using the term bury. I use it in like a funny way there, but that's what this is known for. On top of that, it was just a prop mainly. Like they tried with Triple H to establish it as like a big championship. They tried again with Batista, but for whatever reason, it just never worked. Whether it was injury, lack of competence. So I want to close with this question to you: does WWE need two major world championships? It seems like any time that they've done this hasn't really worked out all that well.
What they need is one world championship where the champion shows up. That's the right balance. Because
Right.
having one where the champion's not there doesn't work. We've seen that. And having one where the champion, and then again, if there's a great world champion, it's a great world champion. I think regardless of the title. I like your rating there, like a C plus or a B minus. I think that's fair. One question I'll pose to you, and on the flip side, this world heavyweight title was around from the end of '02, we'll say '03 through until 2013, really. It's about a decade-ish, 11 years. The Universal title has been around since 2016, so now 7 years. So it's getting to a similar point. I'll throw the question out to you. How would you compare the legacies of the both? Because I know prior to Roman's reign now, the Universal title was like the biggest failure of a world title ever. Now, I guess that's gone from like a D minus or an E to like, I don't know, maybe a C overall, like for the 7 years. I don't know. But yeah, I'll pose that to you. How do you compare the big gold world title as a secondary title versus the Universal title?
Well, the Universal title was brought in to be the main title. Really, that's the thing. Like that was the title that Brock held for a year. That was the title that was main eventing pay per view, main eventing WrestleMania over the WWE Championship. WWE Championship became the secondary title when they introduced the Universal titles. A little bit of a different kind of space, because yeah, the WWE title back in the Ruthless Aggression era, once Cena took it to Raw, that was the main title in the company. Spinner belt. That was the main one for till the Universal title's inauguration. So it's kind of difficult rather to compare them.
Dynamic, yeah.
Yeah, it's different dynamic. Makes it difficult to compare them. When I look at it, if you're asking me to compare the world title and the Universal title, which is what you're asking me, to me, the world title still has a better legacy than the Universal title. I would say that firmly, and I'll stand by that. The Universal title, yes, it's been saved by Roman, but what is going to happen when Roman drops that title? Is it going to just disappear?
He's going to get retired, I
Yeah.
reckon. Yeah.
Going to get retired. We're going to get the WWE title back, presumably. Maybe we'll get a rebuffed design. So I think that title's kind of doomed once Roman lets go of it. And it doesn't feel like the Universal title does not feel like an actual championship. It just feels like a
prop.
like a prop.
Like,
yeah. Doesn't feel like it has no legacy, no lineage. No, and I know that stuff takes time to build. So
Can you imagine they like Reigns vacates or they whoever wins the title, like they end the Universal title, and then in like 10 years on wrestling Twitter and wrestling forum, you got accounts saying bring back the Universal Championship. What a legendary belt! I think they need to bring it back. I'll show pictures of the red Universal title that Finn Balor and Brock Lesnar held, or the blue one Roman held, and go WWE needs to bring back the Universal title, and like this revisionist history, because we saw this with the World Heavyweight Big Gold Belt title from literally about 20, I'd say 15 through until the last couple of months, where everyone's just, every other day on Twitter, this tweet would circulate hundreds and hundreds of likes. WWE needs to bring back Big Gold, bring back Big Gold. They need to bring this belt back, which I found interesting because obviously, as we've discussed, the tail end of this World Heavyweight title in WWE is not something anyone with a brain would ask for to want back. I guess it's just the aesthetic of the title. People don't want this title to just be sitting in a museum somewhere. So Triple H has brought it back, sort of ish, with the new thing. So yeah, I don't know, pal. But yeah, to give my overall grading, I'd give the Big Gold World Heavyweight title in WWE from 02 to 13. I'd give it probably a C, to be honest. With it started really well, and then just the last like 4 years of that title, it did irreparable damage.
brutal.
It's sort of like WCW 2000 and the effect that had in WCW. Like the way it ended was just like, my God, just get it, just finish it now, just end it all. So I'll give it a C. And
Put a fork in it, pal. Yeah, I mean the World Heavyweight Championship. The reason why you get those the craving of the fan base to bring it back is because of the lineage. Like I said earlier up top, like that's a belt that Ric Flair held, belt that Ricky Steamboat held, that Sting held, Hogan held in WCW. So it's like it has a lineage, has a legacy, and I think it's important. Yeah, so that ends our discussion of the World Heavyweight Championship. So we got a new segment that we're gonna try out. We're gonna talk about life. I don't know, what do you want to call this segment?
I don't know. We'll think of a name in due time. This is just sort of a pilot version. I think this was spawned off the back of your incredible segment in our Night of Champions review, where you're mentioning blow by blow what your family were like saying and recounting while watching Night of Champions. Which I don't know about you listeners. I thought that was one of the best segments we've had on the show. I thought that was hilarious, and it's great perspective as far as outside the wrestling bubble, what people think watching this sort of stuff. So I loved it. I guess, throw it to you, pal. Where do you want to kick us off with this?
Yeah, and what makes this interesting too is that we come from different backgrounds. You're out in Australia. I'm in the United States. I'm in a different part of the United States that's really different from the rest of the country. Being in Florida, so it's kind of it's a unique dynamic between the two of us.
Yeah.
So I think it makes for an interesting topic. So I want to ask you about dating in Australia. Right.
Mm-hmm.
What's like overall? What's the go-to out there? Is it the apps? Is it approaching people at bars? Is it running into people by coincidence? Like what's the climate like out there?
It's sort of not to say it's the same as I mean, you mentioned where you are in America is a bit different to other parts.
Yeah.
But it's more so the same as most other Western countries in that it's mainly going to be through apps, which is questionable as is. Dating apps are dating apps. It's like, if you're really going to try and get something out of that, then, I mean, fair play to you, you can, but it's more so used for, short-term stuff. But I know, nighttime stuff, approaching a bar, that sort of thing, I guess. But are you really going to find your wife there? Like, I don't know. I guess more so, either through who you work with or like gyms, or more so just casual, general social outings would be your best kind of bet from my experiences per se. Because I don't know, it's sort of just the type of person you want almost. If you're looking for someone to be with for a day or two, then night game, cold approach, pal at the bar, drinks, on Tinder, on Hinge, like that's you go to. But I don't know if you're gonna find the love of your life, your wife from that. I don't know, pal, but I don't know what's it like where you're at. You mentioned it's like a different environment of the US where you are. Like, back to you, like what's it like there?
So for one, on the to address what you're saying about the dating apps, not to give people hope, because it's a low odds thing, but I know a lot of people in real life that have met their like wives dating apps on Tinder. I know a guy that's getting married to a girl he met on Tinder. someone that's been in a long-term relationship met the girl on Hinge. A lot of my family members met one of my brothers met his fiance on eHarmony or whatever, something like that.
Yeah.
So I've seen the success stories on it. But no, like, so one thing about South Florida where I'm at, this is mainly like Miami and like this area. If you're going out and you're approaching women at the bar, you gotta have some kind of status. Like, for one, me, I don't personally fit the archetype of what the average woman is looking for. They're looking for a white guy that's like 6'3" with money, jewelry, nice car. It's very superficial, is what I'm trying to say. The dating atmosphere here is very superficial compared to other regions of even Florida and the rest of the world. It's like you got to have status, you got to be a baller, you know. So it's like the women are looking for, majority of the women, the basic women, the average woman, they're looking for a low percentage of the male population. I don't know if you've seen those TikToks where you have like the podcast host is destroying the women.
Fresh and fit, yeah. I've watched that stuff all the time. It's yeah, I know what you mean. But Pat, it's funny, you can attest to that as someone who lives in the area.
Yeah.
How much about status, how much about superficial stuff it is, because you say I watch those shows and I go, surely it has to be like not an elaboration, but I guess a bit of a carry on, like a bit put a bit of mustard on it.
Yeah.
It's not like that
It's
that
legit.
bad, but to hear you say that, it's like, yeah, no, that sounds legit. Everything they say on those shows, you can attest to, which is, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Now, this is not to say that, you can't, there's so many people here. You can go to a grocery store and talk to a nice girl as a cashier. You have to kind of wean out which ones are like that, the superficial. You gotta have to wean them out quickly. You gotta be able to know. Because if you don't know, you're gonna get played out real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I went to a bar one time, or I went to a club one time, and this girl walks up to me specifically. I don't know why she came up to me. Came up, she's talking to me, and she's all like, "Oh, buy me and my friend shots. It's her 21st birthday." And I was like, "Fuck out of here."
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. I'm not gonna out anybody, but I did have somebody that bought them shots that I know, and they literally walked away from us drinking the shot. Literally walked away from us. I was like, "Bro, you're." So that's a lot of the stuff you see out in the club scene, in the bar scene. Like literally, I saw like a Miami Marlins player, big baller, rich guy, just sitting at the club, and it's like, whoa, okay. So it's you see like athletes, celebrities, it's not as fun, going. You gotta have money to go out. It's very expensive.
Yeah,
like $20 for a drink.
Jesus.
Yeah.
No,
go ahead.
Like over here, like that's the same. Probably you probably reckon the Gold Coast. That's probably the only equivalent. Like that's the Australian version of where you have the bulk of either your influencers, your OF models, your all that sort of stuff. That's the sort of, not the party area, but it's the closest thing we had to like a Miami sort of thing with like nightlife, that sort of type of deal. The beaches, the accommodations, the big hotels, all that sort of stuff. It's probably the closest we get. Down more so down, not south where I am, but you move further down the coastline, and it's not exactly the same. It's much more, I don't know. It's a different kind of environment to you with that. Like, from my experiences in those situations, those sort of people aren't really where I'm at, because it's not exactly an area, where the big ballers come out with the watches and the big 6'4" status guys are there, and the whole club of sections like, oh my god, he plays for the Dolphins or the Marlins. Like, it's a bit different. It's more so just everyday sort of people going out type deal where I'm at, which is, it's a different sort of environment. It's more so just people go out in friend groups almost, and there isn't as much of the mingling, which has been the same thing since COVID happened, really. That's sort of, and I don't know what's like where you're at, but since COVID happened, it's more so become any kind of night outings will be like you stay with your group of friends, and that's just what happens. There's not as much sort of intermingling as there would be generally. Not to say there isn't, but that's my experience, pal. What's it like in that regard for you?
Like the bar scene?
Yeah, like ever since COVID, has things become different, or has it just been?
No, there was no COVID in Florida.
That's true.
Yeah, there was no COVID. I was at bars like literally 3 months into the pandemic.
That's
like everything shut down probably from March, April, May, June, and July. Everything was open. You can go to a bar, go to a club, go to strip clubs are open. Yeah, everything was open. Yeah, it doesn't. Like I said, it doesn't apply. The rest of the world does not apply to me. In California, You literally could not go into a restaurant without a mask and like a vaccine card just to pick up takeout to like 2021, like the end of 2021. But in Florida, everything was open. House parties and all the shit you see on social media, but like Jake Paul hosting house parties, like that's real, bro. Like that's what it was like.
That's nuts. Because over here it was like it was snap lockdowns. It was just like, oh my god, there's one case of the cough, shut down the whole city. Power, you got to stay inside for 2 weeks. It was nuts.
Yeah,
So that's just that boggles my mind. You know, like where you're at over there, that was the environment,
yeah,
and I'm just like, oh yeah, whatever. That's
literally,
crazy to me. He's like over here, and like especially Australia generally, but like I'm where all the politicians are at. That's my part of the world. You know, my part of Australia. So you know, they just want to make rules. Oh my god, we're going to lock the whole area down. We're going to lock the whole city down. You stay inside. It's like, bro, this thing came into our country a year and a half ago, and you're still trying to make sure there's no one case. Like, stop. We need to be inside for 3 straight months. People are, you know, dying for different reasons because of that. Stop. This is ridiculous. Like,
literally.
it was a whole thing, but that's
No,
crazy. That's
legit,
nuts to me.
legit. Yeah, it's literally what you see on TV and on the news is very real. Um, like I say, and another thing too is dudes are ballsy, man. Dudes are ballsy out here too. I'm sure it's like that in Australia, but
How so? How so? What do you mean?
so I went to Orlando with my ex fiance 2 years ago, roughly around this time. It was like around the time when Punk returned. We were in a hotel watching Punk's return at Rampage, in Orlando, and we went out one night, just downtown Orlando. It's crazy. Like we're in like a I don't even know what you would call it, like a taco bar.
Right.
Maybe a few people in there. Walk in. There's like people dancing on each other, like going crazy. It's just like I think it's just a place to get a drink and have food, but no, there's they're going nuts. So I go to the bathroom and I come back and I literally see a dude approaching my fiance at the time. Like, and I was just like, bro, I've been here 5 minutes, bro. You know, and she, I mean, you know, she was a pretty girl. I'm not gonna say that she was ugly or nothing. She was a very good looking girl, and she attracted that kind of attention a lot. Like it happened a lot. And then like later that night, we had a what's the politically correct term I can use? We had a woman that liked women helping us
Okay.
at a taco place.
A member of the LGBTQ plus community.
Yes, exactly. And my fiance at the time was drunk, very drunk, and she was talking to the person that was working there, and literally the person working there is hitting on her while I'm standing right there. But she's hitting on her in an indirect way. She's like, "Oh man, you're so lucky." Like she's telling me, "Oh, you're so lucky. Your girl's beautiful." You know, and she knows your order. She knows what you want to drink. She knows you. That's the kind of energy I need in my life. I need a woman like that. And I'm just like, all right, can I get my food?
Yeah. Can I just get your food and bounce? Just thank you. I appreciate the attempt, but just no. No,
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah. Literally, and she had a big ring on her finger at the time. And I'm like, bro, like the guy at the bar, I'm like, bro, did you not see that? Like, did you not see that she got a ring? So disrespectful, man.
That is outrageous. No, that's crazy. Yeah, and that stuff happens quite a bit. You know, I love that you leave the bathroom for 2 minutes, you come back and it's like, bro, I left for 90 seconds. What's going on? Like,
Yeah, exactly. And I know she was like, "Yeah, I'm married. Get the fuck away from me." You know, so I had nothing to worry about at that time. You know, as far as that, so like I wasn't tripping or anything. But I'm just looking at the guy like, come on, you saw us walk in. That's like I know I'm a
hilarious.
small guy. I get that, but take care of business if I gotta take care of business. You know, so but yeah, that's just one of the many things that it's the nightlife's crazy. It's beautiful.
Yeah, and one thing I will ask you, and I guess we can round out with this question. Obviously, being a wrestling fan, pal, I guess the environment of being a wrestling fan where you're at, I want to ask that because to me, it's sort of just, you know, like I'll wear, let's say I don't know, like the Greatness Amongst You Roman Reigns shirt that I've worn on the show, you know, once or twice. I'll wear that around and like that's cool. Like, you know, people are like, that's a kind of cool shirt. They don't know who Roman is. Like, yeah, it's very like, it feels like hardly anyone watches wrestling. I haven't seen one other wrestling shirt in like really ever. I've seen like one, which is crazy. Obviously, I've heard you've told me off show the amount of conversations you've had with either colleagues or friends you know, or you know, people who are big New Japan fans or just generally wrestling fans. They know Omega, they know WWE, they've been growing up watching. Talk to us about the environment with wrestling fandom over there, where you're at, your experiences, how many people you know who are wrestling fans, that sort of thing. Because to me, damn near no one. Yeah, I'm like the only one. So
Love it. Yeah, so basically it's a kind of environment where like literally if I wear one of my Macho Man shirts, I will always have somebody shout it out. Like I'll be at the movies in line, and a guy would be like, "Oh my god, I love that shirt. I love Macho Man," and it's somebody like 50 years old,
Mm,
and they're doing the accent, they're doing the "Oh Elizabeth, oh yeah." It literally it never fails. Legitimately, every time I wear a Macho Man shirt, I will get said something to. Every single time, it's never happened. It's never not
yeah.
happened. Like I rock this shirt. This shirt that people don't know that it's wrestling, but this is the I'm Your Papi Eddie Guerrero shirt. I'll get women that would be like, "Oh, wow, you're my." Okay. Like I'll get women that'll be flirty about it. You know what I mean? This shirt always
Yeah.
gets a reaction, always gets a laugh out of people. You know, um, the other one I have, the Eddie Guerrero one, the Scarface one, that one too
Mhm.
gets a ton of attention. And like I go to work, anywhere that I've worked, I've met people that like wrestling. Like I'll be like one day I was at Chick-fil-A getting food, and the guy's like, I was wearing, I don't even know what shirt I was wearing. I think it was an AEW shirt. It had to be. And the guy was like, "Oh my god, you're gonna watch Double or Nothing?" And we're talking about AEW. We're talking about Double or Nothing. I was at the gym like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, rocking my CM Punk shirt. This guy talked to me for like the guy working behind the counter talked to me for like 20 minutes about how he's going to see AEW in Miami when they came down like earlier in May or whenever it was. And it's just, bro, it's wrestling is part of the culture. This isn't like Chicago. This isn't Chicago or New York or like the UK, but wrestling is really big down here. And people have a knowledge of it. Like I could go up to anyone and ask them a wrestling question, not be weird. Like it wouldn't be like, oh, talking about. Like I could just throw wrestling into a conversation anytime, and people will have something to say about it, regardless of like if they like it, if they're a big fan. But it's very much part of the.
Yeah, because like my best friend probably he all he knows, right, is that like Roman's been champion forever, basically.
Right.
And every like 3 months, he'll just literally message me, be like, "Wait, is Roman still champion?" I'm like, "Yep." And it's been that way literally since like nearly COVID started, basically in like August 2020. It's been like that. Is Roman still champion? Yes. Oh, really? Ill. It's just like that's just an ongoing thing.
Yeah.
And that's really the only sort of wrestling interactions I'll have because I'll wear shirts and no one will, you won't get a comment. No one will really, it's just like, okay. People probably saying it, okay, and just move on. It's like a whole different lifestyle. It's a different world altogether, which I guess is a testament to the reach in Florida and like the how much of wrestling is in the culture where you're at and where some other places in the States, particularly. I know exactly about the UK. I'd imagine it'd be similar. Because yeah, down under in Australia, particularly like the nation's capital, this sort of element, it's like a few and far between. You hardly. I'll mention maybe Cena personally, and people will know who John Cena is or know who The Rock is. That's more so as celebrities. And then elsewhere, I mean, yeah, if you've watched UFC, you'll know Brock, and you'll know he's done some WWE, and you might know The Undertaker or Triple H, like the absolute all time timers. But elsewhere, it's just not something people care about, which is, yeah, it's a different lifestyle to you, which I find so interesting. So what that makes the dynamic cool, I guess. Because to me, I don't really have the outlet to discuss wrestling, pal. There isn't like a thing where I'm going to go to a coffee shop wearing a shirt like you're wearing and have a 20-minute discussion about the Ruthless Aggression era and AEW show that's coming to town in a month or two and WWE's WrestleMania. And I don't have that outlet. So, yeah, it's an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, it's
It
awesome.
is.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
It's just like it's very prevalent. Like pretty much everybody my age watched wrestling at one point. They
Mhm.
all like I haven't met a person that's told me no, I never watched wrestling. Everybody at one point they watched, whether it was like a year or two, or like I had one friend that was like in love with the Day of Reckoning games,
Yeah.
but never played like SmackDown versus Raw or anything. He was just like, man, can you make a YouTube video on the Day of Reckoning games? Like I love the Day of Reckoning games. Or I have someone
Yeah.
that's like, oh, WWE 12, I played that game all day long when I was a kid. So it's like everyone my age just has some sort of like connection to it,
Mm.
which is cool. It's so like like if I tell people that I'm a YouTuber, a wrestling YouTuber, it's not that weird. It's not.
Yeah.
I wouldn't tell a girl this on a first date or anything.
Yeah.
So like
No,
flirting
I
with,
know.
but like I could tell like a friend, and they're not gonna be like, oh, that's weird, that's for kids, or anything.
Yeah.
Most people think it's cool.
Yeah, no, I'll just usually say, like, yeah, I'm a YouTuber, do a podcast, and then, yeah, you show them. For me, at least, what I found is like I show the channel and they see like the numbers of like subs, views, all that stuff, and then it doesn't really matter what the topic is. Like, oh my god, you get like 5K views on your video. Oh my god, that video has 100,000 views, or that sort of thing, and just becomes about the sheer numbers as opposed to the topic.
Right.
As you say, it's not for me at least something I rush around going, I make wrestling YouTube videos, guys. Guys, subscribe to me. Look at my channel. I made a video about the Shield and their triple threat match. Guys, look, Backlash 2023. I'm not like that. There's no real climate for that where I'm at, but the fact that at least my stuff and your stuff as well, we got 2.6k subs, I think, from last check. Yeah, and then our show we do like it gets some notoriety. It's not like we just talk about wrestling for no one. Which I feel like if I did that and I'd mention that, you'd be like, haha, what? You do that, really? But no, people care, so therefore, it's fine.
No, that's a good point though. As long as as long as you put up numbers, people don't care.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'll end with this story, I guess. My barber was like talking to me about wrestling. I don't know how we got on this. We're talking about like he's like a super Ultimate Warrior guy, and he had never heard of like any of the stuff about Ultimate Warrior, like him being racist and phobic and all that. Telling him about this, and I was just he was like mind blown. He was like, "Oh my god, you just ruined my childhood, bro! Like you literally just ruined my childhood."
Wrestling Uncovered, you asshole! You ruined his childhood.
Right? I sent him the video that I made on Ultimate Warrior, and he was like, "I don't care. I'm still an Ultimate Warrior fan." But that was cool to see. It was like, so it's just conversations like that, bro. I can plug my channel to people that are close to me. It's awesome. Great, this whole wrestling thing, pal. But yeah, let's get up out of here, pal.
I just love that video, that old Warrior video you made. You spend 7 minutes being like in your very calm, journalistic, well put together, recorded voice, like ripping to shreds this like legend all behind the scenes and everything horrible he's done. You got like the like your classic music in the background,
right?
Not the MJF one, the other song that you use like most videos.
Yeah,
and you're just calmly explaining Ultimate Warrior did this backstage. Jim Hellwig said this. Jim Hellwig went to this situation. It's like peak wrestling uncovered, pal.
Yeah, one of my favorite videos ever. Love that video so much.
What is your favorite video, pal?
Honestly, my favorite video that I'm most proud of is the Benoit and Miz backstage story. Honestly, like that's my favorite video. I had the most fun making the Benoit video. That one I was like really into, writing the script and all that. But I'm really pleased with how that Benoit and Miz storyline, or the backstage drama video played out. That was kind of the inspiration for the movement that I'm trying to make now with my channel. So
yeah. No, that's the W, pal. And for me, like I've got this whole playlist on my channel, the pillars of JTE, to rip off an AEW expression. I've just got my 15 favorite videos all time in one playlist. So that's all my best stuff. For me, the What If CM Punk Never Left WWE is probably my favorite work. It's like a 5-year what if timeline where like instead of what we just went over earlier in this show with the mess WWE did in the early 2010s, it's this well put together 25 minutes of like you finish the video and like I watched it back like the other week. I was like, I can't believe I made that. That was really good. Like I made that video. Like that was great. But the audio was kind of poor because it was like 3 years ago, and I didn't fix my microphone until like 2 years ago. So yeah. Anyway, pal.
That's see you, pal. There you go.
Yeah.
All right. So maybe we'll keep this segment. Who knows? So let us know what you guys think about it. Yeah. We'll holler at you on the next one.